Is that better? Jules, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Am I a lady? Hello, hello. Hey guys, it's Lavonne. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hello. Oh, no. Hello? Hello? Hi there, this is Lavonne. Sorry for the technical difficulties this evening. Like to keep you guys on your toes. Testing 1, 2, 3. Just making sure everybody can hear me. Waiting for confirmation. Hello, hello. Jules, are you there? Well, if you guys can hear me, welcome to the Anti-Media Radio. It's Friday evening. It's still April 17th, 2015. I welcome you to the program. We're here Monday through Friday, same time, same station. We've got a lot of awesome programs, so thank you for being with us. This evening I wanted to go over the week's news, as per the usual, and talk to you guys a little bit about your personal empowerment, which, if you know me at all, that is my purpose. I get to work in the community as an advocate for health. I'm forever grateful to be able to teach people how to connect to themselves and understand that we have the ability to self-heal. Believe it or not, currently, in this exact moment, your cells, all 30 trillion of them, the average, are working in unison to make sure that you are your best. The water you drink, and the food that you eat, and the air that you breathe all contribute to this function. And your cells in this very moment are actually healing and repairing. Did you know? It's incredible. We all take biology in school and we learn the basic functions of cells and the different aspects of them, like Googly apparatus and mitochondria, and how they each have their own little role within the cell. But we don't learn the importance of electrons and neutrons. We know that they're there and we know their function kind of, but no one ever says, "Hey kid, did you realize that your cells are literally throwing light at each other right now?" In essence, you are trillions of compressed lights molded into you. And when you think of yourself that way, and you realize that you operate on a vibration and a frequency, fitting into the conventional world seems a little strange. I like to call this backwards land. I feel like everything we do is backwards. And I know you're agreeing with me right now. You're like, wow, she's right. This is true. We grow food that's ridden with chemicals. We prescribe medicine that causes disease. We wait until people get diseases to take care of them, and then we poison them furthermore. We're not being preventative. And that's what I love about the field I'm in, which is holistic medicine, is that, and that itself's ironic. What's innate has become alternative. We're so disconnected. And the notion that I carry in my heart, and I think that's shared within the community I work in and by the people who are actively involved, is that you literally are what you eat. And we don't have to be victimized. We can make a choice to become what we'd like. And it's kind of a profound notion when you realize that you have full responsibility for your existence. It's really empowering. Sometimes it's scary and it's overwhelming, which it's kind of a big deal to take personal account for all of the things that are happening to you or for you, I'd like to say. But it's an objective perspective, and it's not light, to say the least. Anyways, guys, last week I kicked off what I'm calling the 4 Essentials of Health. It's my personal health campaign that I like to start. It's really basic. It's for anyone who's overwhelmed with the idea of quote-unquote being healthy, because we're so bombarded with different ideas and trends and fads. It's hard to decipher what is healthy. And I think a lot of people do get overwhelmed, and they rather do nothing than feel guilty about choosing. You know, they don't want to make a choice, or they try all these things and it doesn't work, so they give up. And that's the thing. It's like you shouldn't be searching for a thing. You have all the things. Like, the master of your body did not run off and leave you masterless. Like, you're there. You're there. You're in there. And that itself, that notion is powerful. And I'm kind of getting back around to what I was trying to say earlier, is people are coming to understand that when we have a disease or a disruption, it's a result of our disconnection. And this is true. Have you guys heard about earthing? It's a super cool thing where, it feels good to be outside. The earth has a pulse. It has a vibration. And we can benefit from that. And now science supports that. If you look up earthing in the Google machine, you will realize that a lot of people are becoming more aware of grounding, quote-unquote, grounding things. Like, for example, our shoes. What are our shoes made out of? And how does that affect us absorbing the energy that is from the earth? So a lot of people now are going out into the earth and actually like putting their body into it. How bizarre is that? So if you guys want to do more research about it, just check out Earthing. So let's see here. Before we get too deep into this week's topic, which is the importance of water, I just want to do a quick recap of what we talked about last week. Last week's program here with me, we talked about the 4 essentials of health, which are water, oxygen, food, and nerve impulse. So this week I want to talk about water with you guys and the importance of that. And I also want to cover a few stories from our website, which is theantimedia.org. Thank you guys for supporting us. We do our really darndest to make sure that we're scouring for valid news stories. I read a really interesting one that I want to share with you guys, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. So, in regards to nature, psychedelics are not something that we can quote-unquote legally do, but one of our contributors had a really awesome idea, and I want to share it with you guys if my machine will comply. Be my friend, be my friend. So Derek Rose, really talented guy, his article's titled, Psychedelic Plants Are Trying to Communicate with Humans. So from April 10th to April 12th, activists, journalists, researchers, and whistleblowers gathered in Philadelphia for the Free Your Mind conference. One of the guest speakers was American ethnopharmacologist, research pharmacologist, lecturer Arthur Dennis J. McKenna. PhD Dennis McKenna is also the brother of well-known and deceased scientist and philosopher Terence McKenna. Both McKennas are huge proponents of the positive benefits of psychedelic substances and plants, including psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, and MDMA. I had a chance to catch up with Dennis McKenna to talk to him about what ethnopharmacologists do. We also cover his work with the Hefner Research Institute, promoting the benefits of psychedelics. I was also able to ask McKenna to address concerns that him and Terence were both agents of Central Intelligence Agency. Lastly, McKenna expressed that his belief that plants are communicating with humans through chemicals they released and connect to neurotransmitters in the human brain. He believes that the plants are trying to wake up mankind from its destructive slumber. Are plants conscious? Of course they are, I say. Is Earth trying to communicate with us? Check out the interview below and let us know what you think. So I just wanted to utilize that to generate conversation. If you guys want to see the video, you can check it out on theantimedia.org. It's pretty interesting. I'm a philosopher myself, and of course I'm highly inspired by the work of McKenna's, both of them, McKenna Squared. And one of my favorite things to ponder, what his brother said, what Terence said, is that we don't live on the earth. We live in the earth. You know, there are many layers to planets, and the area in which we habit is somewhere in the middle. Like, think of all the layers of atmosphere above you. You may have heard me say this last week. I think it's so profound to think about. Just as your cells are not on you, they're in you, right? You know, they're different layers and layers and layers of you. And if we take that same notion and apply it universally, we'll see that everything has that same existence. And the idea that psychedelics or plants are trying to communicate to us is not so absurd if you understand the nature of the universe. One of my greatest heroes, and you'll hear me talk about him a lot, is Nikola Tesla. Studied this man's work for quite a while, and he's profound. And he says that if we wish to understand the universe, we should ponder energy, vibration, and frequency. And there really couldn't be much more truth to that. Essentially, our cells are communicating via vibration. You are essentially a giant vibration. Isn't that something awesome to ponder? And I often feel robbed when I consider our typical education and how no one empowers us to be the masters of us based on the science. Like your spirit or your the different aspects of you, what you would call your intuition, where does that come from? Like where do you think that sense exists? And I wonder, have any of you ever had any psychedelic experiences where you can either agree to this notion that plants are trying to communicate with us, or do you have a negative experience that you'd like to share? I'm interested to hear. A lot of people read this article, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. You guys can call me at 1718-717-8296. Love to hear what you have to say about that. Feel free to reference it if I move along and you still want to talk. Please do. So, wouldn't it be interesting if we understood that everything does have this vibration or frequency or consciousness or intuition, whatever you want to call it? These are different words for the same things, essentially. How could we ignore the effects of us living in a society modeled that is only active after the problem has occurred? And this is reflected in our government, in our healthcare, most aspects of our life. Like we're very passive in our existence. Why? Why have we become so passive? Why aren't we more actively participating in our health? And I think that's where we're missing the mark. From the time we emerge, we should have this understanding of what composes the world we live in, in our basic understanding. And then we should learn how that applies to our being. More importantly, we should learn how to utilize that to our greatest good. And where I'm going is we should eat the purest foods, drink the most amazing water, and have optimal nerve function along with clean air. And we spend so much time consuming things that we forget the essentials. If we were to be real, we would realize that consumerism is not sustainable, not in mass amounts in the manner in which we partake in it. And it's sickening. It's sickening to exist in a time where people just don't respect themselves. They don't love themselves. And I came into this consciousness when I began to look inward and take more action in my life towards my health. Like I was 200 pounds. Like I'm only 5'3". I was pretty fluffy, guys. And I was in pain, and I was depressed and in an unhappy relationship and stressed out and bitchy. You name it. Like I was just like, I was a sour Lavonne. I was love off. Lavonne, whatever you want to call it, my alter ego. It wasn't a good existence. And it got to a place where I was literally like rock bottom, like living with the in-laws, miserable to be in that situation, not feeling in control of my life. And somebody gave me the notion that I was powerful in my existence. And holy moly, it's a profound thing what happens when you light that internal fire and you realize, I'm in here. I can do this. There's a reason I'm here. And I want to share that with you. Like, We talked a lot tonight about cells and the way that they function. So amazing, your cells don't forget their job. Mitochondria doesn't wake up one day and go, yeah, I'm just not going to do this thing. Only when there's a miscommunication does that happen. Literally, cancer is miscommunication. So, what is causing our bodies to miscommunicate with our body? Probably all the weird manufactured chemical food that you're putting into it. Like, why is that such a strange notion to people? We have to recognize that we are products of nature, and we will sustain much more in a much more lovely fashion if we work in unison with it. So ponder that, y'all. I don't even want to talk about I don't even want to talk about presidential candidates, so we're not going there. It's not going to happen. Okay. This is important. So this was posted yesterday. This is about Monsanto. In about a month, global-wide action is going to take place for people to stand up and take a stance against Monsanto. And people are torn between the effects of GMOs. We don't really know yet because they're just now being introduced. We don't know the long-term effects. And I think that alone scares people is they want the decision to make an informed choice about what they're made of, because essentially every 28 days, those cells that are consciously working right now in this very moment, all day, every day, are going to be completely new. So what are you going to build them out of? Frankenfood or food? So Heather Callion wrote this article yesterday, and she says that Monsanto Company arguably holds an inordinate amount of the global food supply, not only with its genetically engineered seed, but its complementary product, Roundup herbicide. Excuse me, which contains the active ingredient glyphosate. This is why they spat lividly when a subsect of WHO publicly announced that glyphosate is a probable cause of cancer. They demanded a retraction. The report published in the Lancet Oncology discussed chromosomal, ooh, that's a fun word, and DNA damage in glyphosate found in human blood and intestines. Catherine Fromfitch, that's a funny one. I mean, awesome. That's an awesome name. Expounds on it in What's Your Daily Value of Glyphosate. Since they hold more capital than Lucifer, it stands no reason why they would have a propaganda wing that disseminates information and decimates those who stand in the way. Snippets of proof have surfaced before, although shrouded in secrecy. This time, someone from the company got a little too gleeful about the thought of debunking naysayers, whether they be scientists, activists, bloggers, or you. Daily Cost writer Occupy Stephanie explains that she recently attended a talk by Monsanto employee representative who spoke to eager-to-work agricultural students about the RNA projects. When he talked to the efforts to educate the public about the inherent goodness of the product, a student asked how Monsanto deals with the pesky not-so-thrilled non-GMOers. She writes, emphasis hers. One student asked what Monsanto was doing to counter the bad science around their work. Dr. Moore, perhaps forgetting that this was a public event, then revealed that Monsanto indeed had an entire department, waving his arm from emphasis, dedicated to debunking science which disagrees with theirs. As far as I know, this is the first time that Monsanto functionally has publicly admitted that they have such an entity, which brings their immense political and financial weight to bear on scientists who dare to publish against them. But discredit barrel will not be found on their official website. Spin doctors have been weaving webs under the guise of science for nearly a century that we know of in the U.S. But recent examples show that deception for profit has been perfected since then. Let's not forget that Monsanto deployed tactics against social media activism as far back as 2010. It was then discovered that they have ties to Blackwater. Blackwater, which boasts of having Monsanto as a client, was paid the big bucks to infiltrate high into the ranks of social media activism that was crucial for Monsanto. Furthermore, internet-based tactics that appear to naturally support Monsanto and GMOs could really just be a paid-for PR spin, right? So Monsanto also paid female bloggers to attend a panel so that they could be reprogrammed to embrace GMOs. And who knows, maybe write nicely about them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's some money, away with the grudge. And in another instance, Monsanto reps were invited to teach a health class at public school. When this writer reported on it, a Monsanto employee commented with accusations of irrational hate, claiming that organic food kills, but GMOs never do. He spends an enormous amount of time countering comments on the internet. Speaking of which, Nestle has a cyber army, complete with the state-of-the-art high-tech headquarters ready at the helm to address criticism through social media. They also pay a fine for infiltrating an activist group that spoke out against them. They also had to pay a fine. Monsanto's Discredit Bureau is also similar to the technology espoused by Big Pharma. Social media bots that automatically counter comments that are negative towards vaccines. I'm fairly certain I've seen these in action. Likewise, a viral and heartbreaking post about a mother whose baby caught measles from a non-vaccinated person was a complete sham fabricated by an upper pharma rep. Why wouldn't they deploy such methods? They have to. No one asked for their patented products and producers. They require a degree of pressure and savvy for influence, especially when people start catching on to the devastating aftermath. They discover they are not alone. These are the few private corps allowed to have such power over consumers. I'm sorry, that would indicate that there's a degree of choice. The future is going to require astute individuals willing to go the extra mile to refuse and speak up. It's going to require the most ingenious scientists in all of history to brave and willingly publish their research. Because with all their money and power, we ain't seen nothing yet. But such lengths and deception should make anyone stop. Think, none of this is for your benefit. Well, that is a touchy subject, is it not? Monsanto doesn't give us the choice, and one must simply ask, why not? Why not? More amazingly, going back to the notion of connectedness, so they're creating these chemicals to harm biological creatures from eating the food. How are you not a biological creature? And how does this herbicide know to attack bugs but not you? And if it was safe for humans, then why would those people spraying the stuff look like a dang astronaut? Explain that to me. Somebody. Alright guys, moving on here. So this is cool. Speaking of change, American farmers can no longer keep up with the demand for organic corn. People want to eat organic. Isn't that weird? So this is by Heather as well. Go girl. So there are three things driving a surge in organic imports, okay? U.S. farmers have been systematically pushed into growing mostly GMO crops, grown primarily for fuel, animal feed, and cheap processed foods. Hint, hint. Russia even used our food supply as an example for the EU to dump U.S. and join them instead. U.S. consumers are not only demanding fresh organic produce as well as non-GMO convenience foods, but also want meat, dairy, and eggs from animals that were fed non-GMO or organic feed. Other countries primarily grow genetically engineered crops and plenty of organic. They've got the goods and they reap the benefits of trade. This is ridiculous, as the U.S. could not only use a valuable export, but could honestly use a supportive in-house product. Yet again, we found ourselves outsourcing for staples. Shouldn't our own farmers be benefiting from this rise in demand coming from their country? Yet again, farmers have been tricked and kicked by the very companies in which they sign agreements. U.S. consumers are coming into awareness about how their food affects their health and want superior products, which sadly aren't always available here. Yet. An analysis of U.S. trade data released Wednesday by the Organic Trade Association and Pennsylvania State University shows a spike in corn from Romania and soybeans in India. The chief executive officer of OTA is prompting farmers that the market is open for converts. She calls it a help wanted sign for the farmers and said, "There are market distortions that are pretty striking." This is true. As a result, imports to the U.S. of romaine corn rose 11.6 million in 2014 from 545,000 the year before. Soybean imports from India more than doubled to 73.8 million. Sales of foods certified by the U.S. as free of synthetic chemicals or genetically engineered reached 35.9 billion in 2014. An 11% increase over 2013 and about 5.1% of U.S. grocery spending. The organic sector's average annual growth of about 10% is triple that of all over food sales, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Trade Association data. The 4 years of record show rapidly growing trade relationships. In 2014, U.S. organic exports were 553 million, almost quadruple the 2011 total. Supply farms were forced to seek foreign sources with the rapid demand spikes, as 90% of U.S. corn and soy are genetically engineered. A definite no-go for organically raised animals, animal byproducts, and produce. Some organic feed companies have recently seen sales quadruple and sought some supplies from Canada. Read Bloomberg for more figures and some tug-of-war about the future markets and whether or not it's worth to grow organic in America. An interesting turn of events since yesterday's Bloomberg report. Tom Vilsack, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, announced that government would offer to support the boost of U.S. production of organic. There's been a significant expansion in interest in organics, both the number of producers expanding and the sales expanding are an indication that this is a fast-growing aspect of agriculture. A peculiar announcement considering Vilsack's past infatuation and staunch defense of biotech. I don't buy those intentions at all, not with Agenda 21 tactics, a crumbling food system and economy, corporations that drain and frack the daylights out of the drought-stricken aquifers, states that only vote yes to label GMOs in the far-off future, and the DARK Act looming in Congress. Those things tell me to be vigilant and not to get too excited. On a lighter and more productive note, we can keep up that consumer demand because right now it cannot be ignored. On the other hand, don't forget to reach out to farmers, but also demand ways for them to make a living using better methods. There is an incentive to do so currently. In fact, quite the opposite. Let's not let them fall behind the market curve. Maybe we could bring this news to Farmers' Aid attention so they can focus on helping their family farmers who wish to convert but without losing the same farm. Unfortunately, there are stifling obstacles that stand in the way of simply switching to an organic farm. More so if the DARK Act passes through Congress. Hint, it pushes non-GMO farmers with fines and makes them produce labels. For one thing, it's not simply about switching seeds, and farmers are in a sense punished if they use natural methods. As one recent study pointed out, it would be economically better to use nature's free service and organic methods, but only if it were allowed to be economically feasible. Oh my gosh! Seriously, you guys. How ridiculous is it that we literally hinder ourselves from being our best. Think about that for a second. It's easier for us to grow food as nature intended, but it's not profitable. So we make it way more complicated than it needs to be. We add all this extra shit that it doesn't need, and then we sell it for outrageous prices to people. How does that work? I'll tell you how. Backwards land. That's how that works. Good news is that it's changing. This is the year of solutions, and I think people are taking that to heart. Go people. Let's see here. Another news. My computer is terrible at being a computer. Come on, computer. Be my friend. So what do you guys think about that? People demanding organic corn and us having to outsource it. You know, we're growing fields, thousands and thousands of acres of the same crop, and that is not what's intended. We're really destroying a lot of ecosystems. Remember those things we learned about in biology? Ecosystems. We're destroying those. What's going to happen? Because we're part of that. These are things we really have to pay attention to, because I think it matters. It really does. Let's see here. So I want to talk to you guys about water. In honor of Year of Truth, I wanted to break down the 4 essentials of health, and we did that last week. And I thank you guys for joining me, and tonight we're going to talk about the importance of water. I'm just trying to bring up my article for you guys. Give me 1 second. Computer, be my friend. What's going on here? Sometimes I feel like my computer conspires against me. It does opposite of what I need it to do. At least it's consistent with the inconsistencies going on around here. Alright. Basically, you guys, I wanted to break down some properties of water for you, and more importantly, teach you how it relates to yourself. I unfortunately can't pull up the exact words I wanted to use. So, what we're going to do is go here. Alright guys, you've heard me talk about vibration, frequency, and energy a lot. And how that relates to you is that you're mostly made of water. And being a being composed of this miraculous substance, which also happens to be quite malleable based on energy, vibration, and frequency. The notion of taking control of said emotions and situations with the ideal of it benefiting self seems pretty profound, does it not? Where I'm going with this is that you've got to take more control of the type of water you put in your body. There are a lot of studies that support the notion that tap water is pretty much poison. It's laden with so many different chemicals and additives. It's just not worth drinking. It literally hinders your body's ability to do what it wants to do, which is clean and repair. And if you're drinking water that's not pure or not alive, and we'll get into that, it does the opposite. So instead of helping you get better, it hinders you from doing what's natural, which is the cleaning and repairing. Let's see. I want to pull up this really cool article that I used to write my article for you guys. If you guys want to go to Mercola.com, and if you type in importance of clean water. I'm sorry. Yes. How drinking pure water can improve every facet of your life. This is really important, you guys. With all the different types of water out there and all the hype that goes with each, it can be very easy to get confused about which types of water are really best for your health. And if you find yourself struggling with the environmental concerns of bottled water versus the dangerous chemicals in tap water, I understand. That's why this page was created, to help clear up some of the confusion and to help you take control of your health. That is exactly what I'm trying to perpetuate to you guys. So how do you know if you're thirsty? Well, you guys, when you're dehydrated, it usually is apparent, but we've become untuned, right? We talked about this. We don't listen to ourselves. We wait until the symptom, the reaction of the problem, and then we take a pill. We do it backwards, backwards, backwards. Instead of preventing the problem, we wait for it to happen, and then when the problem does happen, we mask all the symptoms and we ignore it. Woo! Go humans! So it can be very easy to get confused about which types of water are actually the best, and more importantly, how you can get them. But luckily, we have Dr. Mercola. So, hundreds of years ago, right, our ancestors were tuned in, and they heard the cries for water. And there is a silent and growing epidemic of chronic dehydration. That means all the time. So many suffer from it, yet are simply unaware of the symptoms. Are you one of them? One of the major symptoms is thirst, dry skin, dark-colored urine, and fatigue. But take a look at some commonly overlooked symptoms of chronic dehydration. Digestive disturbances, such as heartburn and constipation. UTIs, also known as urinary tract infections. Autoimmune diseases, such as chronic fatigue syndrome and multiple sclerosis. Premature aging, high cholesterol, and weight gain. Think about it. If your body doesn't have water to perform cellular functions, how are you going to clean? How are you going to repair? Water is required for all those things, to get rid of waste. So imagine if all that waste just gets piled up in your body. Would you start to blow up or get bigger? So types of water, how your choice makes the difference. When it comes to water, there's more to choose from than simply tap versus bottled. Let's closely examine each so you can make informed decisions about your water and your health. Tap water, danger in every glass. Plain old tap water, it's easy, it's convenient, and comes right out of your kitchen faucet. However, as I'm sure you've heard, most tap water is contaminated with lots of pollutants that increase your risk for serious health problems. Let's take a look at some of these contaminants and how they can adversely affect your health and that of your family. Arsenic, as I've been stating in my articles about water since 2001, the level of arsenic in U.S. tap water is incredibly high. This poisonous element is a powerful carcinogenic, which has been linked to an increased risk of developmental of several types of cancer. In 2001, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency lowered the maximum level of arsenic permitted in drinking water, this is cute, from 50 liters to 10 liters due to the established cancer risk. The Natural Resource Defense Council estimates as many as 56 million Americans living in the 25 states drink water with arsenic at unsafe levels. For more information, see the USGS website, which offers maps showing where and to what extent arsenic occurs in groundwater across the United States. Aluminum. You may have heard how aluminum increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease. But did you know that the aluminum found in your municipal water supply can cause a wide variety of other health problems too? It's also been linked to hyperactivity, learning disabilities in children, gastrointestinal disease, skin problems, Parkinson's disease, and liver disease. Fluoride. If you still believe fluoride in your drinking water prevents cavities and helps build strong teeth, you've fallen for a cleverly devised mass deception. As this recent study done on children in India shows, fluoride is anything but a cavity fighter. Fluoride is a well-known toxin that actually leads to an increased risk of cavities and can cause a wide range of health problems, including weakening your immune system and accelerating aging due to cellular damage. Prescription and over-the-counter drugs. We're talking about water, guys, and these are all things that are inside of water. Pretty scary, right? You may have been told that if you dispose of your unwanted or prescription over-the-counter drugs in the trash instead of the toilet, that you do not run any risk of it ending up in the water supply. Unfortunately, this is not the case. As I mentioned in this previous article, water that drains through landfills, known as leach rate, eventually ends up in rivers. Although not all states source drinking water from rivers, many do. According to studies, human cells do not grow normally when exposed to even minute amounts of prescription or over-the-counter drugs. Remember earlier when we talked about how pills hinder your cells? Truth, guys, it's true. Some drugs that were never meant to be combined are mixed together in the drinking water that you consume every day. Millions of people have drug allergies. Are you one of them? If so, how do you know the strange symptoms you've been experiencing are not due to ingesting small doses of the drugs you're allergic to in your water? Pregnant women should be especially wary. The toxic substances you take into your body from tap water will have a negative effect on the development of your unborn child. Disinfection byproducts, or DBPs. Most tap water supplies are treated with chlorine, and although it may not be the healthiest element you can consume, it's far better for you than what is left behind. In my video, Tap Water Toxins, Is Your Water Trying to Kill You?, I interview water filtration pioneer Robert Slovak about the dangers of disinfection byproducts. Disinfection byproducts are the result of disinfecting water with chlorine. It is important to note that while consuming chlorine is certainly not healthy, DBPs are 10,000 times more dangerous. In addition to being a powerful carcinogen, DBPs have also been linked to liver, kidney, and nervous system problems. So, that leaves us with bottled water. That's the way to go, right? If you're thinking you're safe from all the harmful contaminants I listed above because you drink bottled water instead of tap water, I'm afraid I must be the bearer of some bad news. 40% of bottled water is bottled tap water. Yes, you read that correctly, as I stated in my article about the deceptions of bottled water. 40% of bottled water is just bottled tap water, which may or may not have received additional filtration. Remember the arsenic and DBPs you were trying to avoid from tap water? Well, an independent test done by the Environmental Working Group found that these and 36 other harmful pollutants are hidden in bottled water. Also, drinking from plastic bottles is not a good idea. They have a chemical called bisphenol A, or BPA, which is a synthetic hormone disruptor that has been linked to serious health problems, such as learning and behavioral problems, altered immune system function, prostate and breast cancer, obesity, and early puberty. No big deal. Aside from their health risk, the devastating impact bottled water has on our ecosystem is staggering. So distilled water is something you want to use with caution. Some health-conscious people have been misled into believing that distilled water is healthy for them. As I've stated before, this is simply not true. The problem with distilled water is that is boiled and evaporated away from its dissolved minerals. The water then becomes acidic and seeks to balance itself by drawing minerals right out of your body. It will also draw out contaminants from the container it's stored in for the same reason. What's worse, any contaminant in the water that vaporizes at a lower temperature than the water, such as volatile organic compounds like disinfection byproducts that are 1,000 times toxic as chlorine, will be condensed and actually concentrated in the finished distilled water. So what you end up with is water that contains even more dangerous contaminants than you started with. I only recommend using it for a short period of time and only for detoxification, as this water can help pull toxins from your body. Drinking it long term, however, will most likely invite health problems. Alkaline water. In my interview with water filtration expert Houston Thomas, I asked for his thoughts on the growing use of alkaline water. There are several potential problems with alkaline water, he says. First of all, most water ionizers and alkalizers are marketed by multi-level marketing companies with questionable ethics. Some people experience an initial high when they start drinking alkaline water. This can easily be attributed to detoxification and the fact that they are likely just becoming better hydrated. Detoxification is about the only benefit of alkaline water, and the benefit is limited to very short-term use, no more than a week or two. An additional concern is that many individuals have stomach dysfunctions like GERD or ulcers that are largely related to having too little stomach acid. And long-term use of alkaline or ionized water can interfere with your body's natural digestive process by reducing the acid needed to properly break down the absorbed food. This could then lead to an upset stomach, an upset of the flora or good bacteria, which can open the door to a parasitic infection, ulcers, and malabsorption. For more information, please review my special report on this topic. Vitamin waters. Do not be fooled. If you recently switched from soda to vitamin water because you believe it's a healthier choice, you may be disappointed. Vitamin waters are nothing more than a clever marketing scheme designed to promote a product that is just unhealthy as soda. Vitamin waters contain dangerous amounts of syrup, high fructose corn syrup, colors, additives, preservatives, and caffeine. And it also contains distilled water. Yay! Which is what we read above is one of the worst types of water to put in. And now that we know what to avoid, you guys, let's spend the last few minutes talking about the gold. So the most economical and environmental sound choice is to purchase and install a water filter for our homes. We have different options here. We'll talk about them. Reverse osmosis is, in addition to removing chlorine and organic contaminants, it can also remove about 80% of the fluoride in most DBPs. Another drawback is that the expense of installing it is as most needed a plumber to get up and running. So that's costly. An ion exchange filter is designed to remove dissolved salts in the water, such as calcium, and the system actually softens the water or exchanges natural forming mineral ions in the water, thereby neutralizing the harmful effects of creating the scale buildup. The ion exchange system was originally used in boilers and other industrial situations before becoming popular in home purifying units. And it usually combines the system of carbon for greater effectiveness. The other is a granular carbon and carbon block filters. They're most common types of over-the-counter water filters, and they have the same process of contaminant removal, absorption, which is a chemical or physical bond of a contaminant to the surface of the filter media. So granular activated carbon is recognized by the EPA as the best available technology for removal of organic chemicals like herbicides, pesticides, and industrial chemicals. However, one of the downfalls of granular carbon filters is that they lose material inside. The loose material inside can channel the water, creates pathways to the carbon material, which means that it can't be 100%. So ideally, you want a filtration system that offers a variety of methods. You want to combine them. Another thing is you want to make sure that your water is alive and that it has a good pH, because that's going to affect you. Mountain spring water is ideal. It has really healthy water because it's living water, which means that it's like raw food. When you eat it, it doesn't take, it only gives. So we learned a lot tonight, you guys. Thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties there in the beginning. We covered some media about GMOs. We talked about the 4 essentials of health, which we're going to spend 3 more weeks discussing. Next week, we're going to talk about the importance of clean air. And the week after that, we're going to talk about the importance of food. And then we'll talk about the importance of you. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you later.
no through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.